Hello everyone, and welcome back. In this class I'm going to show you how we can use masks and mattis to restrict the operation area of nodes that don't have the factor parameter. And for that, I'm going to use this simple file, which you find available for download along with this class. To restrict the node's influence in this example, I'm going to use CryptoMat to create masks separated by object. So, before rendering the image, I will go to the View Layers tab. And I'm going to enable the Object option inside the CryptoMat subpanel. Now I'm going to render the scene with the F12 hotkey. And, when the image is rendered, I'll close the render window. And I'm going to enable the compositing workspace. And now, to start composing, I'm going to enable the Use Nodes option of the compositor. This time, I'm going to use the original configuration of the compositor with the backdrop option active. So, to visualize the final image of the composition, I will create a viewer node. For that, I'm going to open a little space between the nodes of the composition. I'm going to create a reroute node, holding down the Shift key, pressing the right mouse button, and dragging over the wire. Now, to create a viewer node already connected to this reroute node, I just click on the reroute node with the Ctrl and Shift keys pressed. This will connect the composition to the viewer node, and will make the final image already appear behind the nodes. Remember that if we want to zoom out the image, we can use the V shortcut key. And if we want to zoom in on the image, we can use the Alt-V shortcut keys. Now, I'm going to start working effectively on the example. We have already seen that some nodes have a parameter called factor, which can be used to define the intensity of the node's effect, and which can also be used as input for a mask. As an example, I'm going to create a RGB curves node in the Colors submenu of the Creation menu. I'm going to put the node in the middle of the composition. And I'm going to create 2 points on the curve to slightly increase the contrast of the image, as we have seen in previous classes. As we can see, this node has the factor parameter. And as we have also seen, we can connect some kind of mask to this socket to restrict the node's area of the effect. For this example, I will create a CryptoMat node by going to the Mat submenu of the Creation menu. As I enabled the Object option in the CryptoMat panel of the View Layers panel, I can leave the CryptoObject option active here. I can click the Node Add button. And I can click on some object in the scene. I'm going to click on one of the heads, just to illustrate. If we want to check how the mat is, we can keep the Ctrl and Shift keys pressed, and we can click on the mat socket of node. This will connect the socket that we clicked on to the viewer node, which allows us to take a look at the mask created by the node. Now I'm going to keep the Ctrl and Shift keys pressed, and I'm going to click on the reroute node, so that the main composition is reconnected to the viewer node. And what I'm going to do now is connect this mat output to the CryptoMat, to the factor input of the RGB curves node. With this, we can see that the node effect is restricted only to the area defined by the CryptoMat mask. The problem is that there are several nodes of effects, adjustments, and other categories, which do not have this factor input. So, to exemplify how we can deal with this type of situation, I'm going to delete this RGB curves node with the Ctrl-Delete shortcut. With this shortcut, the node is deleted, but the wire it was on remains connected to the composition. And now, I'm going to create a node that doesn't have the factor input. For this example, I will open the Creation menu. I will go to the Color submenu. And I'm going to create a posterize node, which I'm going to put on the main wire of the composition. What this node does is reduce the total amount of colors in the image, converting continuous gradations into abrupt passages of color. In this steps parameter, we can configure the intensity of the effect. The lower this value, the fewer colors the final image will have, and the more abrupt the color passes will be. As we can see, this node does not have a factor input. So, if we want to use a mask to restrict the effect, we will have to do the following. We will create a mix node in the Color submenu of the Creation menu. And we will assemble the composition as follows. I'm going to connect the image's main output to the first input of the mix node. I will connect the output of the effect to the second input of the mix node. And I will connect the output of the mix node to the reroute node of the composition. We have seen in other classes that when we use a mask connected to the factor of the mix node, the area that is white in the mask will display the image connected to the bottom input, while the area that is black on the mask will display the image connected to the top input. That way, if we connect the matte output of the Cryptomatte to the factor of the mix node, what will happen is that the effect of the posterize node will only appear in the area defined by the Cryptomatte mask. So, whenever we want to restrict the area of operation of a node that doesn't have a factor input, we can use this configuration that combines the original image with the image modified by the effect. So that's it for this class. Thank you for watching, and I see you on the next lesson.